Tupac was buying groceries when he heard a woman crying in the baby food aisle. When he saw what she was holding and learned why she was there, he quietly paid for her entire cart. But what he did next for this grieving mother would change both their lives forever. It was December 18th, 1995, and Tupac Shakur was doing something completely ordinary. Grocery shopping at a Safeway in Oakland at 11 p.m., trying to avoid the crowds and paparazzi that followed him during normal hours. He was wearing a simple hoodie and baseball cap, just wanting to buy some basic necessities and get home to work on new music. The late-night grocery store was mostly empty, except for a few night shift workers restocking shelves and a handful of customers picking up last-minute items. Tupac was moving through the aisles quietly, appreciating the anonymity that came with shopping when most people were asleep. But as he turned into the baby food aisle looking for some soup, he heard something that stopped him cold, the sound of a woman crying. Not just tears of sadness, but the deep, broken sobs of someone experiencing unimaginable pain. He looked toward the sound and saw a black woman in her 30s, well-dressed but disheveled, standing in front of the baby formula section. She was holding a small jar of baby food in her hands and crying so hard her whole body was shaking. Tupac's first instinct was to keep walking, to respect her privacy, and not intrude on what was clearly a deeply personal moment. But something about the way she was holding that jar, something about the depth of her grief, made him stop and pay attention. The woman was talking to herself through her tears, and Tupac could hear fragments of what she was saying. "I'm sorry, baby. Mama's sorry. I couldn't protect you." That's when Tupac noticed her shopping cart. It was filled entirely with baby items, formula, diapers, baby clothes, toys, but there was no baby with her. Just a woman buying things for a child who clearly wasn't there. Tupac felt his chest tighten with recognition. He'd seen this kind of grief before in his own mother's eyes after she'd lost a pregnancy when he was 12. This was the grief of a mother who had lost her child. Without thinking about recognition or consequence, Tupac quietly approached the woman. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, startled to realize someone had been watching her breakdown. When she saw Tupac's face, even with the hoodie and cap, she recognized him immediately. Her eyes widened with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, wiping her tears. "I didn't mean to. I'm fine." "I'm okay." But Tupac could see she was anything but okay. "Ma'am, I don't mean to intrude, but you don't look fine. Is there anything I can do to help?" The woman stared at him for a moment, probably wondering if this was really happening, if Tupac Shakur was really standing in a grocery store at 11 p.m. asking if she needed help. "You don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't even know why I'm here. I don't need any of this stuff. I keep coming here and buying things for him, even though he's gone." Tupac felt his heart break a little. "What happened to your son?" The question opened a floodgate. The woman collapsed against her cart and began sobbing again, but this time she was telling her story to this stranger who had shown her unexpected kindness. "His name was Jerome," she said, "Jerome Matthews. He was 8 months old, the most beautiful baby you've ever seen. Always smiling, always laughing. He loved music. Whenever I played your songs, he would clap his little hands and bounce up and down." Tupac felt tears forming in his own eyes. 3 weeks ago, I put him down for his nap like I always did. But when I went to wake him up, she couldn't finish the sentence. SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. The doctor said there was nothing I could have done, nothing anyone could have done. But I keep thinking I should have checked on him sooner, should have done something different. Tupac had to lean against the shelf to steady himself. The pain in this woman's voice was unlike anything he'd ever heard. "I'm Diane Matthews," the woman continued. "And I know you probably think I'm crazy, but I come here every few days and buy things for Jerome. It's the only way I can still feel like his mother. The only way I can still take care of him even though he's gone." Tupac looked at this grieving mother, surrounded by baby items she would never need. Spending money. "I know a children's hospital here in Oakland," Tupac continued. "They're always in need of supplies for babies whose families can't afford them. What if we took all these things there tonight in Jerome's name? What if instead of grief shopping, you started donating in his memory? The suggestion hit Diane like lightning. For the first time since Jerome's death, she felt a spark of something other than despair. You would do that? She asked. You would come with me to the hospital? I would be honored to, Tupac said. But first, let's get some more supplies. If we're going to do this for Jerome, let's do it right. What happened next was remarkable. For the next hour, Tupac and Diane went through that Safeway like they were shopping for their own children. They filled 3 carts with formula, diapers, baby clothes, blankets, toys, everything a new mother might need but couldn't afford. As they shopped, Diane told Tupac stories about Jerome, how he loved to be sung to sleep, how he would giggle when she made funny faces, how his favorite toy was a small stuffed elephant that played music when you squeezed it. He was going to be a musician like you, Diane said, managing to smile through her tears. I used to play your album strictly for my NIGGAZ, and he would bob his head like he understood the rhythm. Tupac was completely moved by this woman's love for her child and her strength in the face of unimaginable loss. When they got to the checkout, the total came to over $400. Tupac paid without hesitation, but more importantly, he asked the cashier for the receipt so they could write, "In loving memory of Jerome Matthews" on it before giving it to the hospital. At 1:30 a.m., they drove to Children's Hospital Oakland in Tupac's car, with Diane's car following behind. The night shift nurses were surprised to see them, but were incredibly moved when they learned why they were there. We'd like to donate these supplies in memory of Jerome Matthews, Tupac told the charge nurse. His mother wanted to make sure his legacy was helping other babies. The nurses were in tears. They explained that the hospital was desperately short on supplies, that many new mothers couldn't afford basic necessities for their babies, and that this donation would help dozens of families. But what Tupac did next created an even more powerful moment. Mrs. Matthews, he said, I want to ask you something. Would you be willing to come back here regularly? Not just to donate, but to help other mothers who are struggling? Some of these women are young, scared, don't know how to take care of a baby. They could learn from someone who loved her child as much as you loved Jerome. The suggestion transformed Diane completely. For the first time in 3 weeks, she felt like she had a purpose beyond her grief. You mean I could still be a mother? Just to other people's babies? I think you could be the kind of mother Jerome would want you to be, Tupac said. Not just for him, but for other children who need someone to care about them. That night marked the beginning of an incredible partnership. Diane Matthews became a volunteer at Children's Hospital Oakland, spending her evenings helping new mothers learn to care for their babies, sharing her knowledge and love with families who had nowhere else to turn. Tupac, meanwhile, quietly funded the Jerome Matthews Memorial Fund, which provided supplies and support to families in need. But he did more than just write checks. He visited the hospital regularly, often bringing his guitar to play for babies in the NICU, singing lullabies for children who needed healing. The grocery store encounters became a weekly tradition. Every Sunday night, Tupac would meet Diane at that same Safeway, and they would shop for supplies to donate to the hospital. But instead of grief shopping, Diane was now purpose shopping, buying things she knew would help real babies who needed them. Jerome would be so proud, Diane told Tupac one night as they loaded their donation into the car. He would love knowing that his memory is helping other babies grow up healthy and loved. More importantly, Tupac helped Diane understand that losing Jerome didn't mean she stopped being his mother. It meant she became his mother in a different way, by honoring his memory through service to others. 6 months later, Diane had become one of the hospital's most valued volunteers. She had helped over 200 new mothers learn to care for their babies, had assisted with dozens of difficult cases, and had turned her expertise in childcare into a gift for families who desperately needed guidance. The Jerome Matthews Memorial Fund had grown into a full nonprofit organization, providing not just supplies but also education, support groups for grieving mothers, and financial assistance for families dealing with infant loss. Mrs. Matthews saved my life, Tupac wrote in a letter to the hospital administrators. She taught me that the deepest pain can become the greatest purpose, and that love doesn't end when someone dies. It just finds new ways to express itself. The story of their midnight meeting in the baby food aisle became legendary among hospital staff, but Tupac and Diane never sought publicity for their work. They both understood that this wasn't about recognition. It was about making sure Jerome's short life had meaning beyond his death. Years later, when Tupac was asked about the most important work he'd ever done, he would always mention the Jerome Matthews Memorial Fund and the night he met a grieving mother who taught him that healing comes not from avoiding pain, but from transforming it into service to others. Diane Matthews still volunteers at Children's Hospital Oakland today, and Jerome's Memorial Fund continues to help families in need. Every baby they help, every mother they comfort, every family they support is living proof that love is stronger than death, and that the most beautiful legacies are the ones that grow from the deepest losses. If this story of grief transformed into purpose moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that our greatest pain can become our greatest source of strength, and that sometimes the most important thing we can do is help others carry their burdens.